My name is Ralph Borland, and I'm an artist and researcher. I've held a research post at HUMA, the Institute for Humanities in Africa, at the University of Cape Town for the last 2 years. I'm just coming to the end of that position. I'm part of a research group called Future Hospitals, which is funded by the Carnegie Corporation. I've chosen to engage with the subject material of our team work, which is emerging technologies in healthcare in Africa, through an artistic collaboration with an orthopedic surgeon, Rudolf Venter, and a musician, Alessandro Gigli, and a filmmaker who is also my partner, Dara Kell. And this exhibition shows the work to create an artwork called Bone Flute, along with some of the other themes and ideas and research that have emerged from this project. So this is the traditional intro text of the exhibition, which tells you sort of that framing. If we move to the next piece of the exhibition, this is an artwork in the style of a tabloid newspaper headline, also making reference to the artist Barbara Kruger, who was known for expressing her ideas through the language of the tabloid. So in this, I'm calling attention to my work using a sensational language, a form of clickbait to get you to find out more about the work. Man makes flute out of own leg bone. That is what I did, but it's not actually my femur. I still have that in my body. I've just used technology to be able to scan and 3D print my femur, and I've turned that into a flute, which we'll see in the exhibition. This text panel is a more personal take on the work I've been doing over the last 2 years. I've had a number of events in my personal life which have woven into the material of my art and research. So while working on a project to do with technology and healthcare in Africa, I've myself become a patient within the healthcare system, first within the public healthcare system. I injured my hip while running, and I had myself scanned at Tygerberg Hospital, a big public hospital, where the surgeon that I'm collaborating with works, and he does his work of scanning and 3D printing patients' bones to practice complex surgeries on them before they operate on the patient. So I had a research collaboration in process with Rudolf Venter, the surgeon, and at the same time I injured my hip, and that gave me a reason to go through the public health system as both a patient and as an artist researcher. I also conceived a child with my partner and found myself faced with choices along with my partner around fetal testing, genetic testing, which uses algorithms and data to determine your risk. I also was diagnosed with a severe illness a few months ago, for which I'm undergoing treatment, and the treatment plan is also determined through algorithm. And so I'm finding myself enmeshed in the world of medical technology, not just as a researcher and an artist, but also as a patient and a parent to be. So this encapsulates some of those ideas of these many strands or threads that are woven together through my research. This is the main section of my show, focusing on the artwork Bone Flute. So this is a video that was produced with my partner Dara Kell, who is a filmmaker, and it shows an operation that takes place on a 3D printed replica of my femur in order to produce a flute out of it. So what you'll see in the video is Alessandro, the musician, Rudolf, the orthopedic surgeon, and myself working together in Rudolf's laboratory in order to put the holes in the right place in a print of my femur in order to make a flute. So you'll be able to watch this video separately as well. Around the video screen I have all of these references to Rudolf's work. It's a photograph of Rudolf's lounge of the orthopedic surgery department, one of the real-life patient's bones that he's printed out. My own 3D model for my own femur, which took an MRI scan of my femur, filled in missing pieces of information using a data set of other patients' femurs, using a process called statistical shape modeling, which is also a form of machine learning. That's Tygerberg Hospital, where this took place. These are bone flutes, animal bone flutes, vulture bone flutes to be precise, that are 35,000-year-old musical instruments in a museum in Germany. And the bone flute is the oldest musical instrument that we have found. So I'm working with very iconic material here to produce a bone flute of my own. I'm working with material like the dance macabre. This is a form of expression in art and culture in Europe during the time of the Black Plague and many plagues that swept Europe, in which people had to acknowledge death in the midst of life and form a celebratory attitude towards life while acknowledging death. So you see skeletons and humans dancing together in a ring, and everyone at every station in life is subject to the same illness and death. I'm drawing on references such as the Tibetan kangling, which is a ceremonial flute made out of FEMO. This is from the movie Metropolis, so from over 100 years ago, the famous movie. There's this incidental scene in which a skeleton comes to life and plays its own FEMO. This was one of my influences in coming up with the idea for this project. Actually, several years ago, I came up with this idea of turning my FEMO into a flute, influenced by imagery such as this. I'm also engaging with the history of vanitas painting, which is to do with reminding the viewer that death is an ever-present part of life. Sometimes you'll have, say, a very important person like a king painted, and then somewhere in the painting will be a skeleton or a bone that reminds you that they too shall die. I'm planning to turn my bone flute into an automaton with the form of a snake winding around the flute in order to create a mechanical music-making machine which relates to the history of computing with devices such as this that were mechanical music-making devices. And the idea of a snake around a stick is of course also a symbol of medicine, and across many cultures you find the snake associated with medicine. These are divining tablets from Zimbabwe with a snake around a stick. And by now you're probably curious to see the bone flute itself. So this is the central object in the display. It is, as I've described, a flute made out of a replica of my bone, my femur, the largest bone in your body. All over the world we find examples of human bone flutes. Sometimes people make them out of the bones of loved ones, of family members to remember them. Sometimes they make them out of the bones of enemies to hold power over them. I'm not a flute player. I've learned in the last week to make some sounds on this flute, and so I'll make some sounds. What I visualized several years ago is being able to play some sounds on the flute, to be the Pied Piper of my own demise. And it's been very strange to find myself actualizing this project and then finding myself also a patient and dealing with illness while making a work that's about mortality and also about my own mortality. So normally you would have to be dead to be able to have your bone played as an instrument. So I'm alive. My prognosis is good, and I'm playing a tune on my own bone. And we move now on the exhibition. There's a couple of incidental pieces along the way. This is a video of a baby scan, of my baby scan, on a mobile phone. Just showing how medical imaging technology shows us these things that are inside us that we can't otherwise see. Also, the first view of our child is this sort of skeletal view. So if you take a look at the screen over here, you'll see what we see when we go and have these high-tech scans. Then you can start to discern ribs and bones that is my baby growing inside my partner. And then just next to this image of the baby scan juxtaposed with it are CAT scans that are from my own medical process. I needed to have CAT scans done last year in November in order to diagnose an internal problem. So these then produce a sort of an animation that's my own insights. And I think that as a researcher, it's also interesting or important to have myself as the subject. So I'm in my research. This is my material. It's my insights that I'm showing, and I'm sharing some of my own personal journey. I'm also working with a number of thematics in my exhibition. So if you draw back to see the wide view of this wall, you'll see that I'm working with 3 key thematics: AI and divinity, access to technology, and human-machine collaboration. These are 3 key themes in my work that I explore. So when I give tours of this exhibition, I use these images in order to explore these subjects. And there's also like a written key to the work which helps you to interpret it. But just very basically, I'm interested in the work of Leibniz, who produced binary in maths, which became the basis for computation. He was interested at the same time as he was developing his own mathematical and spiritual ideas. He was interested in Eastern divination systems such as the I Ching. These coins that you throw, they fall either heads or tails, or you could say 1 or 0. And then you form hexagrams from the results of your coin throws, and these then are a guide to telling your fortune. This is the Ifa divination system from Nigeria, from Yoruba culture. It also involves throwing shells that fall up or down, so a 1 or a 0, and they throw them in sets of 8, making a byte of information. And there are papers you can read that relate the advent of computer programming to the Ifa divination system. It has a kind of an algorithmic logic to how you combine a person's personal details with the system to produce a kind of a foretelling. I was influenced by this book, God, Human, Animal, Machine, came out a few years ago by Megan O'Giblin. Very interesting material around how many of our technological trajectories are determined at its origin by religious motivation, and also how we are transferring religious feelings onto technologies. One of those aspects is giving AI godlike powers, which is a threat to our agency as humans in determining our technological pathway or decision making when we hand over decision making to machines. Even if those are not conscious machines yet, we're still giving over the power of decision making in the criminal justice system to do with medicine, longevity, economics, to machine systems. And part of that, she argues, is because we're assigning religious feelings to these technological innovations. I'm also influenced by this book, Red Thread, on mazes and labyrinths, which relates to my own personal journey through this labyrinth of material and my own experiences. Access to technology is an area in my work where I'm exploring who has access to these technologies. So we have cutting-edge technologies. How evenly is access to those technologies distributed? You could look at it globally, you could look at it within a country like South Africa. These are images of my baby being scanned. I started out this project on the public healthcare system, and then I transitioned into private medical system once I took health insurance partway through my research post. And as a result, we get access to these incredible technologies that look inside the body and give us data and allow us for complex cutting-edge testing. But how many people in South Africa have access to these technologies? And then you can take them on a local scale, comparing public and private healthcare, and you can take it on a global scale as well. Who has access to these technologies? Rudolf Venter's lab, which is a well-funded facility within Tygerberg Hospital, is developing low-cost methods for applying these technologies to the public healthcare system. So their objective is to use open-source technology and low-cost methods to widen access to these technologies. And then human-machine collaboration is, for me, the sweet spot. It's where I'm really interested in working. There's a lot of information contained in books like The Glass Cage by Nicholas Carr about the negative effects of automation, how machines can de-skill people, how they can diminish our experience, how wary we need to be of the technological pathways we're being taken along. At the same time, he identifies the sweet spots where you have this creative intersection of humans and machines working together. So in Rudolf Venter's work, surgeons can use their hand skills to simulate operations on life-scale prints, which means they use their embodied skills. And that's like a good example of human-machine collaboration. The scythe is an example of a good tool and technology which Nicholas Carr explores. People are having a lot of fun with AI-generated images. This is a sculpture from 500 BC in which a flute player is providing the rhythm for bakers to bake bread. I saw this used as the introduction to a talk by Ziad Barat about automation. I'm interested in how music can also be this sort of rhythm of work, but human-machine collaboration is where a lot of my interest is at. I'm going to take you to the last pieces. So this section here is a chart of the last 2 years, going from March 2021 to February 2023, where we are now. And I have personal trajectory and my art and research trajectory, and I explore things that have happened to me throughout this time period and how they intersect and relate to my research process. You know, some obvious things like getting an MRI scan of my hip, as I mentioned, was both for my personal and for my research work. And then there are family members who passed away, fell ill, my own illness, my own relationships, my own conception of a child, and how all of those things contribute to my engagement with data and AI and emerging technologies in healthcare. Now we're coming to the last pieces of the show. This is a print that's mounted in a window, so it becomes a light box, and these are my MRI scans and my CAT scans. And I did this as part of the exhibition design in order to contain the energy in the space, and that is also a revealing of my own medical imaging. And we have a 3D printer in the space. So this was provided by a collaborator to run during the show, and we printed little mini femurs, little mini copies of my femurs, in order to be able to give them to people. They could take away a little part of me. This is, 3D printing is one of the technologies of the 4IR. And in the middle of the space, we have a sort of research table, and I've been meeting people and being interviewed and interviewing people, and displaying models, displaying academic papers. And here are some of the mini femurs that I mentioned. So this is something you can get depending where you are. We'll give you a mini femur. And if you turn around, this is the view of the room. You'll see that on the glass in the front of the inside window is the logo of the exhibition, which is AIAIA, expressed as the symbols of a triangle and an upright. And so it becomes this reference to binary code, the triangle and the upright like a 0 and a 1, and it's a aesthetic representation of the coding that underlies all of this material. Thank you very much for listening. Read up more about the show.